Listen, tomorrow we have St. Patrick's Day. Of course, here in the States, it's all about getting drunk and drinking green beer. That's what it's come down to. Look what Christmas has come down to. Look what Easter's come down to. It's crazy. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I'll say, go ahead.
I think. Look, I'm guilty of partying over this holiday for a long time in the past. Okay, not anymore. I really don't. I'm not getting up early to drink green beer at some bar that stinks. No, I'm not about that. What I am into though, I like the food, the cabbage and the stew. I'm down with all that. But why don't you look? You have some information that we need to hear, and I asked you about it earlier.
Yeah, I have a few factoids, but I'll tell you this. Years and years ago, I had a job and I worked with a guy whose mother lived in Ireland. And he told me, I said, what do they do for St. Patrick's Day? He goes, oh, I'll call her on St. Patrick's Day. And she'll go, oh, we went to church and then we had dinner and that was it. Right? That was what they do in Ireland.
Yeah.
The green hat, the Mardi Gras beads the green hats and the green beer and all that. It has turned into such the simple explanation is this. Oh, Americans commercialize everything and they turn it into a big party. Yeah, that's what we're known for. We're Americans.
Right.
But you can see how you could take something that is potentially holy and bastardize it and corrupt it, which seems to be another American tradition that I see a lot too.
Yeah.
But some basic factoids on St. Patrick off the top of my head. It is believed that he was originally from either Great Britain or Wales, maybe even Scotland, but most likely my guess is Wales. And he came from a family of religious people that were early Christians in the Britons. But he was kidnapped at 16 or 17 years old, and for 6 years he was taken to Ireland as a slave, and in a region of Ireland I'm familiar with called Dalriada. Now Dalriada would be the northern part of Ireland, like Ulster. The islands and western shores of Scotland is an ancient kingdom called Dalriada, or the Dalriadic Scots. And that's where he was I think he was essentially a sheep herder there, but he prayed diligently. He was not educated, but he prayed hard every single day. And he was having vivid dreams that he was supposed to lead the people of Ireland who were pagan to Christianity. And in his dream, God told him that he should, told him the day and the when and the how to flee. And he went down to the shoreline and found a vessel there, and he convinced them to take him aboard. And long story short, he ended back with his family in Great Britain, either Wales or Great Britain. There's not a lot known about him. It's kind of we're talking 365 AD-ish, somewhere around there.
Wow.
So then a long time ago. So he decided that he wanted to go back to Ireland and convert the pagans to Christianity. And that's exactly what he did. He went back and he was met with resistance. And what he did, now I have some, it's interesting to ponder this, and I'm wondering what our listeners are thinking too. If anybody wants to chime in, feel free. But what he did was he amalgamated the pagan traditions of Celtic Ireland with Christianity and made it palatable for them. And it's a blend. So, for example, a Celtic cross. Everybody knows what a Celtic cross is. It's kind of a cross with a circle around around it
in the middle,
top.
right?
Yep.
Or is that at the top? Okay.
That's at the top, yeah. So originally what that was just a circle with a cross in it, and that signified the sun. And I think that was probably sun god worship, which could be also referred to as Baal worship in some circles. But he added a stick to it, and he brought the message of Christ. He took a shamrock, and he talked about the Holy Trinity using the shamrock. He took the Celtic people have beautiful artwork that has swirls. There's triple swirls and double swirls. He took the triple, it's called a triskel, and he used that to describe the Holy Trinity. Every chance he got, he integrated the Holy Trinity and the message of Christ in with their pagan traditions. So far as, I'll tell you this, in Ireland to this day, there are churches that have Celtic standing stones outside that are essentially phallic in its origins, where the people in the community, when it was pagan, would go and the children would march around and touch the stone, and it was a fertility. Well, there's churches built next to these Celtic pagan stones, these Druidic stones, and they still observe these traditions. They'll go to church, and then periodically, once a year, whatever, the kids all go out, take their shoes off, and they walk around, and they touch the stone. So they still, or another thing, the Celts believed that the soul resided in your head. So the Celts were known for being headhunters. We're talking about the pagans. So in battle, they would take your head because they believed if they had your head, they had your soul. And
Wow.
they would slather it in oil and preserve it, and they'd have a chest. And if you came to visit, they might take the heads out of the chest and say, "Check out my trophies." Right. Well,
that reminds me of cutting the head off Nephilim.
It does. You're right. That's a good point. That's funny they say that. So then, to this day in Ireland, you would go in, and maybe Scotland too, for some of these things also, you'll see carved on the walls are the heads of the saints, like just the heads on the wall, right?
Yeah.
Or other the symbols of other people. Well, that's hearkening to the tradition of headhunting, because the head represents the soul in the Celtic tradition. So you'll see all this amalgamation. It's pretty cool to think about how you would go about converting an entire nation of people who were barbarian warlords who were pagan druids, right? How do you do that? Well, he'd have to go to a king or a chieftain, and if he could convert that chieftain, all of his followers would then convert also. There's a lot to this story, but that's kind of that's what he did, is he converted an entire pagan nation into Christianity. I should say, not single-handedly. He had disciples and students and people who worked with him, but he led that charge. There were a few Christians there. He kind of went there and brought them together and rallied them around himself. That's who St. Patrick is. He has nothing to do with green beer or nothing like that. He is attributed with casting out the serpents from Ireland. Now, the historians say that serpents were long gone before he came along in Ireland due to the climate and other things. I don't know. Maybe that's just modern history trying to squash the story. Regardless, that's what he's been credited for, is casting out the serpents. Now, could we talk figuratively? If the Baal worshipers, if the pagans were also serpent worshipers, or right, maybe that's what it's also, it's literal and figurative. He cast those people out. But that is, I mean, that's no small feat if you think about it. I mean, that's a life lived in faith. It's a life where he prayed. That's another thing too. There's long suffering in the story. He was a teenager, and he was kidnapped from his family as a slave, and he prayed every single day diligently, uneducated, no text, no Bible to study, just in his heart connected with God. And God gave him a vision of what he was going to do to Ireland, and led him out of slavery, and told him when to go down to the shore to jump on the boat to go back home. Right.
Hey, sorry to interrupt, but you said he was captured and turned into a slave. Who do you think captured him?
Pagans.
And Ireland. Who do you think these pagans are?
Well, so there's something called the it may be referred to sometimes as like a Celtic diaspora, but there's a Celtic movement that came out of essentially the Greeks and the Romans, believe it or not, and they were pushed northward, and they had a tradition. The eldest son of the family was told to go as far as possible away to start his family, and they just spread across Europe into everywhere from the Alps to France and Spain and Germany, into parts of Scandinavia, parts of Russia, and then to this day it's called the Celtic Fringe. Just a few edges of the world. We're talking Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Britain, which is not I'm sorry, is it Breton? It's an island off the coast of France where they still speak Gaelic to this day. That's the Celtic Fringe, what's left. But they went across Europe in the Neolithic era. They're the ones that worshipped at the stone circles. We don't know, did they build them? We don't know how they would have built those giant structures. That's up for debate. You and I would have our own versions of that. They were a warlike people who went into battle naked. The Romans would conscript them into battle whenever possible, because of their fierce warlike nature. They were hard to beat in battle, and they were fearless. So, but anyways, but I mean, if you really look deep, I mean, we all come from the same place. Anyways, I mean, all of humanity comes from Ham, Japheth, and Shem, right? So to beleaguer the debate on where they come from genetically is a moot point, because we know it comes from Noah. But at the end of the day, those early birth places of civilization, Greco-Roman Europe, the Greeks, I believe the Celts were born out of that. And over time, they developed their own identity as they went across Spain and France and Europe. And probably in the Ice Age, a lot of them made it over the ice bridge from France in Normandy into what is now Great Britain. Sorry, is that too much info? But that's
no, that's really good. You also said another word that makes me think of, okay, modern day kind of stuff. Headhunter. Now today you think about headhunters, you're thinking about employment and people trying to get a job. So what is that all about? How does that apply,
Well,
you think?
all right, you just made my synapses fire there, buddy. So think about it like this: when you are employed by a boss and you are working for taxes and your mortgage, the death
Mort Gage,
pledge,
yep.
mortgage, your death pledge.
Yep.
If What is a headhunter? Well, a headhunter, if a headhunter takes your head in the Celtic sense, he steals your soul. He possesses your soul. So if your
Oh,
headhunter finds you a job and enslaves you through
he's got
he's got your soul.
dang. Every
Dude,
single
I
time.
I wasn't going there, but you took me there.
The origins of these words, I'm telling you where they come. We don't know where they come from. We don't know the original intent. But here we are, like dummies, using them every day, like nothing. I don't know if that means that we're getting spells put on us, doing demonic work to ourselves. I don't know. But anything is possible. Spelling, casting a spell, all these kinds of things that they're done by the breath.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And God spoke the earth into existence. Every bit of it. He spoke it. So when you speak, you are affecting your own life. Whether you want to. So if you listen to what other people say about you and you repeat it negatively, then don't be surprised if you get negative results out of your life. If you can break the habit and speak positively over your life, and that's what Jesus does for us. I mean, once we understand that he died on a cross for us.